Marile puteri sunt întotdeauna prezente sub diferite forme pe întreaga planetă. Sub pretextul creării unei lumi multipolare, China și Rusia încurajează puterile medii să le susțină ideea. Dar este așa sau vorbim despre o încercare de a slăbi super-puterea Americii? Brazilia crede în multipolaritate și și-a asumat în America Latină un rol de catalizator, însă păstrează și relațiile cu SUA și Europa. Ricardo Guerra de Araujo este ambasadorul brazilian la București și ne dă detalii despre viziunea politică a președintelui său, dar și despre comunitatea de brazilieni de origine română destul de mare din țara sa. Sunt Cristina Cileacu, începe Pașaport Diplomatic. Ricardo Guerra de Araujo, Ambassador of Brazil in Bucharest, welcome to Diplomatic Passport.
Thank you.
Ambassador, President Lula has a view, a political view when it comes to Latin America and the Caribbean zone, saying that you have to redefine your place in the world, meaning that all the countries in the region should work better together. But of course, like any region in the world, Latin America also has some domestic issues in various countries, your neighbors. How is Brazil trying to cope with all that, being the biggest country, having this view over the Latin America and using its diplomacy in the end?
Brazil is actually, as you said, the biggest GDP in South America and Latin America, the biggest population, and has frontiers with almost all its closest neighbors, except two, and Chile and Ecuador. Yeah. Brazil was the last monarchy in the 19th century. Our neighbors were already a republic, and Brazil was still a monarchy and only became a republic at the end of the 19th century, which probably helped to keep its territorial integrity. All the other Hispanophones, neighbors, they became a republic very early, but they were fragmented and became different countries, as we see today in the map of the region. And Brazil always tried to keep a peaceful relationship with its neighbors. We ended our territorial claims with our neighboring countries at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. So we don't have any issues or territorial conflicts with any of our neighbors. That's why in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, we were behind initiatives in order to better coordinate the countries in the region in the same direction and putting the same efforts to make the South American region more united and more prosperous. That's the idea. And Brazil has been a leader in this kind of continental initiatives.
And does it work so far?
Well, it's ups and downs, like any when you try to aggregate and to coordinate policies among some different countries. Yeah? Maybe the most successful initiative was Mercosur, created back in the 1980s, and it is still going on. As you know, there is interregional negotiations of a free trade agreement going on right now between Mercosur and the European Union. This is a major international negotiations or interregional negotiations. We are talking about, if you add up the two regions, we are talking about 720 million people of the two regions, and of a GDP of $22.45 trillion. We are at 2025, and we are still trying to implement this huge interregional agreement that will bring, I'm sure, benefits for both regions, not only for Mercosur, but especially for the European Union countries. and for a country like Romania. So.
Another policy of your country is to be non-aligned, to try to be a partner of everyone. And I want to know how is the relationship with the United States, because also we see ups and downs. Donald Trump imposed 50% taxes on the Brazilian products. How can you work with the United States, which is a main security partner, and also you work very much with the United States in scientific fields?
Listen, Brazil is not a military power. Brazil is much more known in its international relations as a soft power country, maybe a regional leader, and which tries to impose our views about, international relations. We are big defenders of the democracy, of a multipolar world, of peaceful disputes settlement, of environmental sustainability, and Brazil has always been behind, this idea that a multipolar and a multilateral world is a better world than a unipolar, where one country takes unilateral actions against other countries because this country is more powerful than its neighbors or than its other fellow countries. Well, the relations between the United States and Brazil is historical. The United States was one of the first countries to recognize Brazilian independence in the 19th century. It has been a traditional partner and the most important trade partner of Brazil for many years. It's not the case anymore. China has become our first trade partner, followed by the European Union, and the United States only come on third place with about 15% of total bilateral trade between Brazil and the United States. Of course, the 50% tariff imposed by Trump is something that we are still very surprised to see. Why is that? Especially because Brazil runs a trade deficit with the United States. It's not because we export more to the U.S. market and import less that Trump decided to do that. But there are probably more political reasons behind this imposition of this trade tariffs against Brazilian exports. More recently, President Lula and President Trump met in Malaysia.
And they liked each other very much.
And there was, as Trump said, there was a sort of a chemistry between the two heads of state. And for the first time since Mr. Trump took office and President Lula took office, they sat together and they talked. And they shook hands and they start to negotiate. And exactly, I guess this is what was missing in the picture. The two presidents sitting together and start to talk. Any trade negotiation is a give and take. And you offer something, and your counterpart asks you for something back. And this is exactly what's going to happen. And apparently, President Trump has already signaled out that he's probably going to reassess the tariffs he decided to impose the Brazilian exports to the U.S. market. So we are going to see in the near future how this is going to evolve, Christina, because, as I said, Mr. Trump, he plays a lot with these unpredictable positions, and he forces his partners to sit at the table and negotiate. And if you don't negotiate, he takes unilateral actions against you. So he has this very peculiar way of seeing international relations, to say the least, and which forces other countries to sit down with him and negotiate. And that's exactly what I expect is going to happen in the near future.
You said as well that you prefer the multipolar world, and China, which is, as you said, the biggest trade partner of Brazil, it's also part of the BRICS group. together with Brazil. China seems to be on the other opinion. I mean, they don't really like polar world. They prefer to be a superpower like United States is already. How is your relationship with China, putting the trade aside, since China has this tendency of becoming more important when it feels on a safe ground?
Well, we cannot talk about China, the bilateral trade or the bilateral relations between Brazil and China without talking about trade. Trade is a very important aspect, not investments. You know, China is not a very important foreign investor in Brazil, not yet. But it's by far for the last 15, 18 years, the most important trade partner of Brazil. And it's also, as you said, is also one of the founding members of the BRICS. Originally, BRICS were intended to form a grouping of fast-growing economies that would dominate the international scenario by 2050. The idea behind this was to create a sort of a geopolitical bloc to counterbalance the influence of global institutions such as IMF and the World Bank, but always keeping a vast difference in their respective political systems, economies, and geopolitical positions, which shows, of course, the fragile aspects of the BRICS. Because when you compare a country like China and Brazil, or China and South Africa, very different economies, very different political systems, and very different geopolitical positions concerning, for instance, the war in Ukraine, etc., etc., etc. The partnership between China and Brazil is a natural partnership, but of course, keeping these differences very much alive. The BRICS, and people sometimes don't understand, they are not a grouping of like-minded countries. They were never supposed to be.
It's like-minded interests.
So, in a nutshell, that's how Brazil and China has been, this relationship have been evolving in the last maybe 20 years. But I repeat, as far as foreign direct investment is concerned, the United States and European Union countries are by far the most important investors in the Brazilian economy, with a special mention to countries like Germany and France and of course the U.S.
BRICS was initially made of fast-growing economies, and Russia is not the case anymore, since its economies is powerful, affected by the war they started in Ukraine. I have to underline this. What's the position of Brazil? Because in this group, in BRICS, China kind of helping Russia. Russia is an aggressor, which is recognized, especially here in Europe. We all feel the effects. Does Brazil has a red line in this situation?
Well, we made our position clear in the Security Council a few months ago. We clearly recognized who was the aggressor, who was the victim of this war. And we even put forward a peace plan with China a few months ago that didn't have much success among other Western countries like the European Union and the United States. But we tried to at least put forward some ideas how to end this war. Not necessarily based on economic sanctions. In Brazil, we don't believe very much in economic sanctions as a solution to stop this kind of war. Well, the proof is that the economic sanctions have been on the table for 3 years, and the war is still going on.
And at the same time, I have to disagree with you, because the economy of Russia is deeply affected by these economical sanctions, and if United States will impose even more, then we'll see what's happening.
Yeah, but we have to see what's the objective behind this. Is to weaken the Russian economy and the Russian people, to make the Russian population suffer, or to end the war against Ukraine.
And how can you end the war when the aggressor doesn't want to stop?
Well, by diplomatic means, by diplomatic
Did you
talks.
saw Mr. Putin coming to the negotiation table?
No,
because I guess the rest of the world didn't.
But maybe the problem is not the Russian as a country, but the Russian government is not very willing to sit and talk about to cease the hostilities and to cease the war. So
I agree, it's not Russia as a country, but then again, this is the government, this is the leadership of the country that started the war. It's not the Russians as a population.
Yeah.
So what solution can one have when the diplomatic negotiations are not happening?
But well, Christian, this is a $1 million question.
Yeah,
If I knew the answer, I would probably have the Nobel Prize or whatever.
And Mr. Trump will not like you very much, I guess.
And he would hate me. So.
I want to talk as well about the Brazilian strategic partner, the Portuguese-speaking country in Africa. And I want to ask why this partnership between Brazil and other countries in Africa, in Asia, that speak as well Portuguese.
Well, the Portuguese-speaking countries community, just to make a brief history of this community, it was created back in the 1996 and forms a group of 9 countries coming from 4 different continents: Americas, Africa, Asia, and Europe. So we are talking about 260, 270 million people. No, the Portuguese language, Christina, is the 5th most spoken language in the world. After the Mandarin, English, Spanish, Arabic, and Portuguese comes on the 5th place. So it's a community very important because we have the same culture and we have the same language. We share this common identities among these 9 countries that belong to this community. And we try to keep it alive and try to keep this language alive. Like you here, you are the only, like we say, Romania is an island of Latin culture and language surrounded by Slavic countries. So, and we try to keep it alive because the language and the culture is your first identity. And that's why every year we celebrate Portuguese Language National Day. It's May the 5th. And this year we organized an event and to celebrate this Portuguese Language Day. We had this fabulous Romanian singer and guitar player who played Brazilian music and Portuguese music, and every year all the Brazilian embassies, like the Portuguese embassies, do the same. We celebrate this Portuguese Language Day around the world, and it's a celebration that I guess one of the most important events that we have in our diplomatic calendar every year.
And since you're an ambassador in Romania, you told me before this interview that the Romanian community in Brazil is quite developed and is doing well, to quote you. What is your mission here in Romania, and how is our community helping you, our community from Brazil?
My basic missions, among others, of course, is to raise awareness about You know, there is a country in South America called Brazil, and the other way around, to raise awareness in Brazil that there is a country in Eastern Europe called Romania, and we have to get together because there is a huge potential to be exploited between our two countries. The Romanian diaspora in Brazil, according to the Romanian embassy in Brasilia, is estimated of around 200,000 people. I'm talking about first, second, third generation of Romanian. Some of them still speak Romanian. And more recently, Christina, I organized the second edition of the Brazil-Romania Business Forum. And a mission of 35 businessmen came from Brazil, from the south part of Brazil, more particular from the state of Santa Catarina, where there is a huge Romanian diaspora. And the idea was to, they came here to Bucharest to do business with their Romanian counterparts. And I guess it was a first step, but a very important step, because they are now, you know, talking to each other, the Brazilian community in Brazil and the Romanian community here, the Romanian business community here. After we had this business forum in Bucharest at the Chamber of Trade and Investment of Romania, they went to Constanța to visit the port, because they realized that Constanța can become a very important gateway for Brazilian and Mercosur and South American exports to the southeastern Europe. Of course, while there is a war going on nearby, you know, the Black Sea is not today a very safe place to do trade, and that's why war is so bad, because it hampers, you know, this huge potential that has the Black Sea and ports like Constanța for international trade. So.
Well, maybe have more talks with your partner inside BRICS. Maybe you will convince Mr. Putin to end the war. Ambassador, thank you so much for this interview, and good luck with your mission here in Romania.
Thank you, Christina, for having me again.
Atât pentru astăzi, dar rămânem în continuare online pe pagina de Facebook a emisiunii și pe conturile noastre de X și Instagram. Revenim cu subiecte noi din lumea diplomației și a politicii externe, vinerea viitoare de la 11:30 și reluare sâmbătă după miezul nopții. La revedere!